Little chill beats for everybody. Welcome back. We're lazy. It's slow season. Football's over. Rest in peace for the season. But two fans, one Paul, myself, David Quist, my lovely co-host KB Kirk Brown. We're hanging out. We're gonna try to get back into the swing of things here, maybe once a week. KB, how's the weather in Phoenix? How you doing? How is waste management? Quick for everybody.
Good all around. It was a little cold over the weekend. I mean, cold for standards here is in the 50s, like high of. But we're looking up this weekend. It's going to be a high 75 over the course of the next few days. So I'm going to enjoy the beautiful weather, sunshine. Waste management was a bit of a shit show.
Nice.
I think the conditions are what helped make it like so bad. It rained a lot here leading up to that tournament, and so everything was really muddy. And then muddy things and drunk people don't go together well. So
True.
overall, that's kind of what caused such a big shit show. And the last thing, just before we're they stopped golf for the cut line for over 2 hours. So everyone kind of had 2 hours of not watching any golf and just getting shit faced, which made it so out of pocket and out of hand on Saturday. But
Yeah.
excited to get back into the routine here, talking about college football. Spring practices are starting to kind of ramp up and starting to get along here. So excited to talk about all that.
Yeah, I just had to say, I had to ask you because I saw the shit on Saturday. They let everybody in. Everybody was like going to VIP and drinking. It was just a complete shit show. But I don't know, you went on Sunday, so it was probably a little more tame. But let's just jump in quick. We got to shout the Super Bowl. I think, if I'm honest, the Lions probably win that game. But hindsight's 2020, and the Chiefs are the Chiefs once again. And I'm kind of over the dynasty here, the Chiefs. I'm over dynasties. I respect the Patriots and Tom Brady, but I hate dynasties. I think the Niners taking the ball in overtime was a mistake. I think Moody did great kicking the ball. I don't think Purdy played that bad. Sucks to see Greenlaw get injured that way, just running onto the field and popped his Achilles like no other. I'm kind of over dynasties, KB. I hope next year the Lions or the Ravens knock off the Chiefs, maybe in the divisional or whatever round they play in next year. But kind of over it. Taylor wasn't around too much. Commercials were okay. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine's a big one there. I think the Planet of the Apes movie would look good too. I think the last trilogy was really good. So shout out some commercials. But besides that, it was an okay game. The second half and overtime were way better than the first half. Shout out Usher and any millennial person watching the halftime show. That was for us. I loved it. I thought it was really good. Probably top five Super Bowl performance for me.
Yeah, I mean, Dre Greenlaw is really the storyline of the game that no
Ugh,
one's really talking about. Travis
sucks.
Kelsey was held to one reception for 1 yard in the first half, and then popped off for 8 yards and 8 receptions for 96 yards in the second half. So, and it was following that injury. Yeah, it was a mixture of a few things. Special teams definitely hurt. There was a blocked point after attempt. And usually you blame the kicker for that, but Moody got it up. Their whole entire left side of the um, kicking unit completely crumbled. Moody did set the record for longest field goal in the Super Bowl, which was really cool to
Well, it got
see.
broken.
Um, yeah, I
Harry,
know. He said
Harry.
it. I know he said it though.
True.
Said it first. And then I was gonna bring up some special teams play definitely hurt. They dropped the punt
Did it? It went
that
off
hit the
his
player's leg.
player's leg. I was listening to New Heights. Shout out Jason and Travis Kelsey, and it sounds like they didn't know that, but I was like, what the fuck? And if you watch the replay back, it like hits the heel
Clearly.
of the
Hmm.
teammate. So maybe they didn't see that. Obviously, Travis was playing. Jason was having a great time up in the box, but if you watch the replay back, the guy jumped on it because it hit his teammate's foot. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he didn't hear the fire call, whatever they call it. If you know football at all, when it's when you don't want to catch the ball, you say fire, fire, or something, and everybody should scatter. But it seems like he was blocking and engaged with the guy, and it hit his heel.
Yeah, but outside of that, it was a really good game. I think, like you said, going for it first, it put them in a position when you kick the field goal early. It puts them in a position knowing they at least have to get the field goal range, and so that completely mischaracterizes it because then you go for fourth down. I think Patrick Mahomes' legs in overtime really played
Yep.
a big impact. And then there's a lot of weird effort plays. I think Purdy, like you said, played okay. He played fine.
Yeah.
It was a weird approach. They really tried to throw the ball a lot and didn't, go for quick completions, even though they had a 10-point lead. They really tried to, continue to run their stuff. And, It was just, I think the better team ended up winning. When you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, you can win any game that you get in. So
Yeah.
that was really the story of the Super Bowl. It was an awesome second half. And Alicia Keys and her husband probably need to have a talk with what
He already
happened with
He already
Usher.
said it was fine. He's a true. He gets it.
Yeah,
It's
I know
true
that's what he's
performance.
going to tweet, but you have to have I mean,
Usher's known to
the
do this.
first body wave, the second maybe, but like the 14th, like brother, let's relax. But it was a good time too. I really like that. It was better than last year for sure. It was cool. So it'll be interesting to see who they get next year, or who's rumored and stuff like that. But Super Bowl is a good time. Commercials, mid. I don't think we're ever gonna have as fun of commercials as we did
The
kind
Paramount
of
one
growing
was
up.
really good, but I saw that like a week before it came out with like Hey Arnold and
Yeah.
Tua and Patrick. Yeah, that was great. But besides that, there wasn't that many great ones. Kind of depressing nowadays. And there's that one with like the Jesus one where they spent like a shit ton of money, but
23 mil.
no big deal. Don't want to give money to people that need it. But let's just transition here. Super Bowl was fine. I think we both enjoyed the game for the most part. I turned it
Yeah.
off right after they scored. I was kind of over. I'm over the Chiefs. So we'll transition back to college football though with some news that we have not covered. Some big names have moved around in the Big Ten. Big names that have moved to teams that state plays next year. So we'll just jump right into that, KB. First and foremost, Bill O'Brien, the O coordinator for OSU's gone. He went to Boston College, head coach. Kind of makes sense. He seems like he has ties up there. I don't know if they'll be any good. I think State wins at Boston College next year with everything going on. And because of that domino falls, another domino falls. Chip Kelly, head coach UCLA, goes to Ohio State to be the new offensive coordinator. He did not want to be there. Interesting in my opinion, jumping from one Big Ten school to another one. Obviously now they're expanded conferences. We can talk about this after we say the last one. And then Deshaun Foster, former running back for UCLA, is now the head coach there. I believe he was with the Raiders for a short time as a position coach, and now he's the head coach there. So three big moves because of one domino falling. And interesting to see what happens with this head coach, Bill O'Brien, back in as a head coach. Used to be the head coach at Penn State. Chip Kelly not wanting to be a head coach and going to OSU. I think they are loaded up, man. They are scary. And I think UCLA might be a bottom feeder in the Big Ten next year, if I'm honest. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of take this one at a time and break it down, and I want to hear your thoughts because you kind of just explained it there. But
Yep.
I was kind of shocked. Bill O'Brien, it kind of, I don't understand the move. You're at such a great position to be at OSU, being the offensive coordinator. Now, maybe there was some behind the scenes stuff where it was basically like, hey, you're not going to have full control of the offense. It's still Ryan Day's thing or what have you. Maybe that is it. But I would think that being an OC, not having to worry about the full NIL cycle, having to worry about all that, would be a lot easier to manage and be around, especially with how many weapons OSU has compared to going to what I would say is
Mediocre
a complete
ACC
and
team. Mediocre
yeah,
at
a complete
best.
and utter rebuild. Um, I think the team won what 7 games last year. They went 7-6. They played a very weak schedule. They do have an okay quarterback. I don't even know if he's
Athletic.
returning, but I couldn't name many players from that team. Definitely not the kind of program that we've seen. But one of the things that you might look at, like you said, he has some connections there is a lot of talent up in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And, none of it goes to either of those schools, Boston College, Syracuse, Maryland gets some DMV guys, but a lot of that, success and stuff leaves those areas. So maybe if he could get some guys to go over to Boston College, but I just think that's an interesting choice. I don't know what the deal looked like, but I'm sure he got paid a hell of a money. What did you think about that? I mean, I was shocked because
Well,
that's a terrible job in my
where
opinion.
did their head coach go? Didn't he take a position job or something in the NFL?
Yeah, let me look. You break it down and I'll double check and look.
So I think that's one big move because I think a lot of I wouldn't be surprised in the future if college coaches take position jobs in the NFL. Less stress, NIL. My camera's being wacky. Doesn't want to focus. There we go. So I think the first thing we didn't talk about was Boston College's coach took a position coach job. I'm not sure where in the NFL. And I think a lot of coaches in the future will do this from college to NFL. Less stress, no NIL. You're not recruiting. NFL might be actually a less stressful job, even though you can get fired a little easier. So that's the first domino. I think he takes it maybe because he wants to be a head coach and not a coordinator under Day, kind of like you alluded to, and he wants to have the reins. I think Dave probably would have probably had his hand in the pot calling plays. So, and then I don't know how much he got paid by Boston College, but I don't see it as a job that's a destination unless he went there. Something I'm missing, but it's an interesting move. I don't know. Well, I think me and the boys are going to go out there, watch State play them. So we'll get a first-hand look at what he's taking over. Obviously, these aren't his players, but I'm pretty sure the quarterback's pretty athletic. I think the ACC is a dying conference in general, but that's a conversation for another time. Just interesting all around, and I think it has to do with maybe the power struggle at OSU, but there might be another power struggle with Chip Kelly going there, and he's been a head coach. So we all know what we think about Crying Ryan being born on third base, but big names want to be his coordinator for some reason too.
Yeah, so the head coach for Boston College went to Green Bay to be their defensive coordinator. So
Okay.
you were correct on that. But yeah, it was one of those situations that's really surprising. But I guess we got to talk about the big deal, and this really propels, um, I think, OSU in the next realm.
Oh yeah.
Bill O'Brien and his philosophy didn't really align with Ryan Day and kind of what he talked about. He is a straight drop back passing, limited, a lot of motion. Really, he wanted a pure pocket passer. He saw it a lot with Bryce Young.
Who do you have at Penn State? What's his name? I'm blanking on his name.
Hackenberg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christian Hackenberg.
But
Yeah.
that's kind of his philosophy. That's his DNA in the offense. And Chip Kelly, he's going to run his spread power concept. I know we talk a lot about oh, it's out west football, they aren't physical. That's not what Chip Kelly's about. I think we get lost in the sauce a little bit with his time at Oregon and he speed training and hurry up offense. But when he went to UCLA, I mean, he's running 30 gap schemes a game,
Mm-hmm.
which really aligns with the running backs that they both have there. Quinshot Judkins and
Trevion Henderson, two-headed
Travion
monster, man.
Henderson. Because those guys, if they get one-on-one with a safety, I'm picking both of those guys over it.
Bye.
They should be returning a good offensive line too. But Chip Kelly taking this move, it is surprising because it's a demotion, right? He's running
He
away
did
from the
not
battle.
want to
He's
be
running
at
away.
UCLA. I don't get it.
He
He
did
did
not want
not
to
want to
be
be
at
there.
UCLA. Yeah. And I think the reason why is pretty simple. Rumors were swirling before UCLA played USC that the
Yeah, I
administration and
thought he was
boosters
gone.
wanted him gone.
Yep.
They wanted him gone. He doesn't like dealing with NIL. He doesn't like dealing with boosters. He hates that fact about college football, but he got ran out of professional football. And, for the most part, his offense isn't intellectual enough, I guess would be a good way to put it, to be ran as successfully as maybe you want it to. It relies on the hashes and all that stuff, along with running the ball in a power spread concept. And I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be joining this conference. They lost their huge Dante Moore recruit, who they probably paid millions of dollars
Mm-hmm.
to, stink it up for a year and leave. Go to Oregon, which is another Big Ten school, and sit for a year rather than be a starter next year at UCLA.
Yeah.
He lost a lot of talent, like to Latau, and I think he was just over it, and he knew that as soon as it went down south, he was getting fired. And he's like, I'm not gonna let you make this decision. I'm gonna go jump on third base as a coordinator, right? Make an easy decision for myself, make a smooth and simple decision,
Yeah.
and do that. Would you describe that his move as that, like a soft, easy,
I mean, it's not gonna.
not
It's an
strong-minded
easier.
decision?
I think it's an easier job considering everything at Ohio State with them loading up. But the pressure's going to be on him and Ryan Day. I mean, if Ryan Day can't beat Michigan, I really don't. I don't think 11-1's a bad year. I don't think that's fireable. But Ohio State's in that top four, top three team every year. So there is going to be some pressure on them. But I think it's a cushier job. You're not the head coach. You're just calling plays. Obviously, you're still going to be in the media because you're a big name at a big school, but maybe a cushier job. Maybe he takes a little bit of a pay cut, but maybe he doesn't care about the money. He just wants to get a natty. So I kind of get the move. Do I respect it? I don't know. It's the highest caliber of college football. He knows what he knows what it takes to wins, and he takes a little easier job, all things considered, with NIL and all that stuff. So I don't blame him. Would I do it? I don't know. I think Ohio State's loading up, as we both know, KB. And if they don't get to the playoff at the least, which they could do with the loss to Michigan now, um, could be interesting. What are your thoughts? I mean, a little bit soft of a move, but I don't respect it, but I get it.
Yeah, I'm in that same camp. I get it. I would not want to be somewhere where they clearly don't want me. And if someone calls, right, he's had a long relationship with Ryan Day. They've known each other way back when they were coaching on the East Coast. So there's definitely a relationship there where a lot of these programs have connections like that. It's just a weird time frame for him, but maybe
Yeah.
he's just ready. My only concern with the OSU is this guy just overcoaching college kids? Is he just doing this because he knows he's going to be in a comfortable job? He doesn't have to prove anything. Maybe he doesn't want to prove anything. Do you feel that, right? Or
Yeah.
or does he come to OSU being like, I want to win a national championship. I want to get over this hump, even not as a head coach. I just needed to get out of that situation because I'd never win, and I'm going to give this my all. It'll be interesting to see which one goes. I think it's a great thing for OSU if you get the Chip Kelly that has a fire that's ready to put in a bunch of work.
Yeah.
He has the players, he has the personnel, and that offense combined with that defense. I'm taking them over Georgia for every position except for quarterback, and that's really going to be the thing: is how well can they get a quarterback into that system with the changing play calling, with all that stuff, and get
It's a
him
new quarterback
sophisticated
too,
enough
so
to run the offense.
yeah, it's a new quarterback too, so maybe they'll ease him into it. Who knows? But any thoughts on Deshaun Foster? It's an okay hire. He's an alum. It seems like the players like him, but that's going to be a hard job for him no matter what. They've lost a lot of talent, like you said, and then they go to the Big Ten, and they're going to play a lot of tough teams, a lot of travel. So that's going to be a tough year for him. But I don't really have much to say about him. I don't know much about him or the program. I think UCLA's always been a good name, but I think they've lost a lot, and they might be mediocre next year in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, you're sledding uphill in that program. You play in maybe one of the coolest stadiums in the country, the coolest stadium in the country. You can't have anyone fill it. It's UCLA. No one wants to go watch college football, and it's 110 degrees out
Yep.
in LA. It's not a football school, and you're going into a completely new atmosphere of play. And I don't mean that in like I don't think they can handle. I think some of the teams out west, they're strong, they're physical, but it's just different when you have to play that every week. When
Yeah.
it's a 1 week thing, that's fine. When it's 6 straight weeks of getting 45 rush attempts at you, and they want to physically break you, you can get broken in this conference.
Yes.
You saw it in Maryland when they entered. They were, not great, but doing okay. You saw all these kind of schools that aren't Big Ten. One game that might win, but over the course of a season, it's really tough to hold up. And teams like USC is where I'm like really concerned.
Hmm.
But he is a guy that's been in the program a long time. 2017, he's been the running backs coach there. So I really do appreciate them promoting within. I think that's going to be one of the cool new things that happens is that I think we're going to see that more and more with how quickly coaches can leave, with how much contracts are going for, with how much stress head coaches are under. I think it's going to be an expectation for you to groom and put together a head coaching in waiting under you at all times so that you can immediately hire from within. You don't lose any of your recruiting for the most part, right? Your most prominent guy, your best recruiter, hopefully a young guy that you can just immediately elevate so you can kind of mitigate a lot of the outside forces. For example, Michigan, who's only lost 4 or 5
Good
or maybe
segue.
6 recruits. So,
Continue.
that's kind of what I was like focusing on there. But Michigan, Sharon Moore, he's almost put together his whole entire staff. There was a decommitment today from the Texans defensive back coach or safeties coach. He committed the program, said he's hired. He was in Ann
What
Arbor,
role? DB
and
coach.
he was the DB coach, yeah. And he completely backed out of it.
Hmm.
I don't know what his name is off the top of my head. I could look. But they got Wink Martindale, who's the original proponent and original mastermind, if you will, of the Baltimore defense. His is completely different philosophy than I think of Minter and McDonald. He's much more blitz happy, much more cover zero, cover one. We'll see how that translates. But I definitely wasn't that surprised that it was going to be happening. One of my key concepts that I talked to you about, and we can kind of get into the drama here and cut myself off from talking too long and jump it to you to see what you think. But he is a 60-year-old guy who's been calling plays for many years,
Yes.
and You need that with Sharon Moore being an offensive lineman, an offensive line coach, an OC.
Yes.
He hasn't been on that side of the ball. And so you need someone who has put together complete NFL game plans week after week. And, that led to this, which Steve Clinkscale, who was the former DB coach, is a former Michigan guy. From what I've heard from the insiders, he got passed up on the job, and he feels like he got passed up on the job,
Mm,
and he wasn't given a fair shot
mm.
because maybe it was alluded to that if Minter goes, that he would be the next coach when Harbaugh was here, and he joined Harbaugh and his staff in the NFL. Um, but that kind of led to this whole domino effect. So, Dave,
I
what do you
mean,
think of the hire of Wink, and then any other thoughts on the coaching staff as it gets finalized up here?
I think you kind of need that guy, that older guy, that seasoned guy. He's been around. He knows football, NFL. That the talent level there is definitely more than college, and I think he'll kind of be a guiding light for him too. Sharon Moore's like 38. I think he did okay when he stepped in for Harbaugh. They won all the games. I think he kind of handcuffed the offense a little bit, but he was in some big moments, so don't blame him for that. So I understand the hire. Kind of use him as a mentor type. Pick his brain, try to learn the defense a little bit. As a head coach, you need to know a little bit of everything, and you let everybody do their job. That's a head coach. That's a CEO. You trust everybody that you hire. And you hire an older, guy with some, he's got that, he's just used to it. So let him do his thing, trust him, and then pick his brain when you can. So I get the hire, and if somebody's butthurt about it, pull him aside and have a conversation, man to man, person to person. That's life. I think we've all had, shit happens in life with work and friends, and somebody goes out, doesn't get invited, and gets butthurt. Just say, hey, this is what happened. I need to be with this guy, or this is why we did this. So sucks. Life happens. I think that happens probably to people all the time in jobs in general. So get over your ego. Go coach your position, and if you want to look elsewhere next season, do that. But be loyal to your team for now, and understand the decision
Well,
as this seasoned guy from the
well,
NFL.
that's the thing. He didn't. So Steve Clinksale told the whole entire team that he was staying,
Hmm.
and then went back against his word and joined Harbaugh in the NFL.
Well, I guess you're loyal to the guy, not the program, then. Yeah, I don't know, KB. That's another thing to bring up. But I understand the hire, and people are gonna
Yeah,
do.
it's
Well, people will do what they want for money, and for people that they really care about. And I guess he cared more about Harbaugh than Michigan as a program.
and obviously personal ego gets along with that. And I mean, make the best decision for you. And if you think that's the best
I
decision,
would
and you
say the
kind of had to
same
teeter
thing.
on it,
Be
I mean,
selfish.
I'm not mad at him. I just think that like when you tell kids and like guys that you recruited, hey, I'm coming back, and then you don't, that kind of makes
He
an
didn't
ass out of
whack off
yourself.
on a phone call either, so I think that's good too.
Yeah, he's not at the bottom of he's not at the bottom of the floor of
Oh
expectations.
shit.
But a big thing too, and Dave, I kind of wanted to jump into a quick little segue here.
Mm,
But bringing in right, you had Mike McDonald who came in for 1 year, Jesse Minter 2 years, and now you're bringing in Wink that kind of all talk the same. They have maybe different game plans and ways to attack offenses and set it up, but they're all using the same concepts. And Michigan's defense for the last
has
three
been pretty
years
good.
over two different DCs are great.
Yes.
And you look at Alabama. Why has Alabama's defense has been great? It's because Saban's been coaching the same defense for however long. And you look
Correct.
at Iowa. Why is their defense so great?
Same
Because they're all
guy.
using the same thing. And I think that's one of the things that we need to kind of not look at going forward,
Continuity.
but continuity of concept, continuity of all those things plays such a big role because I think offenses are a little bit more fluid because you're doing stuff instead of reacting. So
Hmm.
if you have years of data and years of reacting in the correct way based on the system, so I think something you might see going forward with that success is more internal hires promoting of the concepts that you've already had.
Absolutely agree.
Thoughts?
I would 1,000% agree. Learning a new system is not easy. I mean, we know guys in college that have 3 or 4 O coordinators, and they're just churning and burning through coaches, and they can't get a rhythm. And maybe they finally get it at the end of the season, and they're fully in the playbook. So I would agree 1,000%, KB. I guess we'll see what happens at state. You're gonna have a lot of guys returning with new coaches, new concepts, completely different. Obviously, we have a couple guys that are from state, so but the concepts will be different. But I do like your thoughts. I think Saban, he was always there probably, and he always coached DBs, so he always probably had the same concepts for years and years. Sounds like the guys at Michigan all have the same kind of ideas and concepts. And if you're talking the same talk, I mean, every scheme and concept has its own language. It can get pretty complex if you ever listen to people calling plays. It makes it easier for 18 to 22-year-old kids. If you can spoon feed it to them, make it simpler. If you've been doing it for 30 years, you know that shit like the back of your hand. So I would agree 1,000%. And seeing what coaches do in the future with maybe grooming a younger guy, that'd be kind of a cool thing to see more instead of coaching carousel that we're used to in college football.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of finalize on that topic,
Great question.
yeah, I was just thinking about that today at work about it because like the big thing is like checks, right? Like let's say someone motions in. Well, this defensive system I was in for 3 years, I need to shell that, right? Which means nothing in this language that I'm speaking, but now I need to, post it. And that means two completely different things. But for 3 years, I was told, hey, whenever they move into this formation, I need to shell that. And I rep that thousands of times. And this year, I need to post it, which is completely different. I go to a different check, someone else has to come over it.
Yep, yep.
And that can lead to a bunch of confusion. So I was just thinking about that, and then the more years you're in the same talk, the same lingo, the same system, the same belief, right? You can get more entrenched. You can get, better, quicker, faster, stronger at it, and you can recruit
that's
to
like
it too.
Narduzzi defense, like for state when they were
Yeah.
like in their stride, no fly zone. I mean, that shit was down packed. So I would agree when we had that defense with D'Antonio Narduzzi that when you have that continuity, you have the same concepts. You have really good court, really good D-back, DBs, solid linebacker play, and everybody knows what they're doing. The sky's the limit for a defense that does cover one or cover three. Really, for Michigan and for State when they had the no-fly zone, they really depended on those DBs locking down. And obviously, once you get the good talent and the concepts work, the sky's the limit for the defense.
Yeah, that was just my final comment on that. Anything else, Dave, that
No,
you needed to
great
follow up on?
segue, great question. I'm glad you asked it. But there's one thing that came out today that we need to talk about really quick before we jump into the draft stuff. And College Football 25 is officially back. It died. NCAA Football 14 died 10 years ago. Shout out promo guy. We had a dynasty with two teams. I had the Wildcats of Northwestern, and he had State, and then we did the Akron Zips, and he did Eastern Michigan, and then we made like a NHL team builder. But I have a moment of silence quick for everybody because we're gonna have in the summertime we're gonna be building up some shit team like Eastern or Louisiana Lafayette. So I'm gonna take 5 seconds for a moment of silence for NCAA Football 14 dying, and now we have our new game in a couple months here. So I'm gonna take 5 seconds, KB, starting right now. But I'm fucking excited. We got to do an online dynasty if there's crossplay because I have a PC because, PC Master Race type deal over here. But I'm excited for it. I saw in the renderings of the preview they had Sparty throwing down the flag already. If it's like Madden, I'm going to be upset. NCAA has always been a little bit different, and I think we can all agree. I mean, I still play NCAA 06 from time to time, a mod on my computer. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope they do it right. I know it's different developers. I know they love college football, so they have to have the pulse on the community because we're all waiting for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm apprehensive. I don't trust EA with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, two things. I hope it's much more fluid than the last Madden game I played. I mean, the last Madden game I played is 2021. I don't need, mechanic jump, which is like an extra super power boost that he catches it 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Just like let me play football. I am nervous because they said they were doing Ultimate Team, which is where you get
Well, they had
cards
Ultimate
and
Team
you can
back
buy.
in the day. They
Yeah,
did.
I know, but it
was
wasn't
like
as
it was
popular,
like-
and you couldn't buy 3,000 cards, and there wasn't new updates with legendary people that played 30 years ago, which is
Most
what
of the
Madden
cards were like
does.
legends. For back then, it was like Tebow and Herschel Walker and Bo.
Gotcha.
That's how they did it because they didn't have the rights to the players.
Yeah, I just that's my only concern is if it is a microtransaction pay to win
Give me an
style.
offline dynasty where I build a shitty team
Yeah,
up.
but
That's fun.
give me that. You need to give me Road to Glory.
Hell yeah.
That's a must.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites. I just am excited for it, but I'm apprehensive with what all comes with it and what gets focused on. But I'll buy it. I'm gonna play it. I'm not very good at it. Haven't ever been really great at
Don't
it.
play Sam.
But I'm ready to grind, ready to kind of get into the weeds
Oh,
on
yeah.
it. But excited overall. I mean, I think the fun part. I hope you can do like a create your own team,
Team Builder.
name them, build
they
your
gotta bring
stadium.
back Team Builder because Team Builder was great. You could do it all on the computer. I remember I made my high school team when they had Team Builder, and had a pretty close to uniforms to what we had. People probably do that all the time, and it's a good time. It's college football. We love it. I'm really looking forward to maybe another Northwestern Wildcat dynasty that's building up a mediocre Big Ten team. And then, playing online one-on-one against randoms or your friends is always fun. If we can do an online dynasty, that'd be fun too with a group of people. Not always easy to get everybody coordinated on schedules, though, when you have to play a game. But we're looking forward to it. I hope they don't fuck it up. I hope they don't take Madden's engine. If you want to watch a really good engine for any football game, go back to 2K. They knew what they're doing back in the day. Also, 2K is going to make FIFA next year. That's a rumor. Just going to throw that out there for my sports gamers, because FIFA is not part of EA anymore. So 2K might be making that game. But NCAA football holds. It's very near and dear to a lot of people, including myself, KB, promo guy, Brandon fucking Walker. The list goes on. So keep an eye out. I thought the promo today was pretty cool how they did it. But it sounds like they're going to have a full reveal in May, and it probably comes out. It used to come out the second Tuesday of July, so I guess we'll see. Summer officially starts June 21st, so that could be another date to bring out. But any more thoughts, KB? I know we're both excited, but a little nervous to see what they do.
Yeah, I'm happy, like anxious, nervous. I don't want to get my hopes up too big, but yeah, super excited overall, and excited to kind of get into it. But outside of that, I think we're going to move on to some draft stuff.
Yes.
Just to categorize this, we are not experts. We do not
I did
film
this quick
study
today,
2,000 people. We don't look through everything parcel by parcel. I think overall our goal is to give you some insights to players that we've definitely seen, keep an eye on, and just kind of want to float out there to college. And obviously, Michigan broke the record for most combine invites, which is super cool. Forgot to mention that, but kind of give some insights into some of those players that we really know, and focus on them specifically.
Yeah, so KB, my thought is we each do one each for. We'll just go through our overrated list. We'll go back and forth, then do the next thing for underrated. You good with that?
Yeah, what do you want to do first?
Let's do overrated, because I got a good one for my Sparties out there. J.J. McCarthy. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but I just don't understand how he's a first rounder. I know there's only 5 or 6 quarterbacks. I get that, but I just don't think I saw enough this year as a total quarterback. He did his job. He did a good job in that sense, but I don't know if his game, if he showed enough to be a capable starting quarterback in a couple years in the NFL. He could prove me wrong, and I would respect that, but I think he's got a little bit to prove, in my opinion, because of the play style of Michigan.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't think that's a bad take. I think he's getting a little overrated. I would probably have him QB 3 or 4, depending on how you kind of want to look at it. I think he's better than some of the guys that we're going to talk about. I think the big thing is that you're projecting a lot of it. You're saying, hey, he wasn't asked to do a lot, but there's a lot of throws that pop.
Yeah.
And if we can get that out of him, he has the athleticism, he has the size, he has all those things. He does need to add weight, which is a cause for concern. But he's also super young compared to some of the guys that are coming out. And he is a better quarterback than those guys were at that time.
That's fair.
So I don't disagree. I'm not mad at that, Dave. I think that's a fair take. I do think he has the intangibles. I mean, Josh Allen was a less polished passer. Anthony Richardson wasn't close to his polished passer. And I'm not saying he has their guys' upside because he isn't as good as an athlete. The team he
gets drafted to in the coaches and the concept season is huge. I mean, we've seen teams ruin good quarterbacks, ruin guys with high potential. So where he lands is big. And if he goes later on in the first round or second round, that's probably better for him to develop.
Yeah, I agree too. So I like that take. So my overrated one, and I had a quarterback on this list, is Bo Nix.
Oh, I saw that too.
He's been in college for 5 years. Most of his tenure.
I thought it was 20. Sorry. I thought he was in that. I thought he was in college forever, like 8 years. But.
Yeah. It felt like 20 years. He started 3 years at Auburn, 2 years at Oregon. For 200 years of college football, he would have went undrafted. And that's what's sticking in the back of my mind. He was such a bad quarterback at Auburn. Yeah. And he goes to Oregon, and I rewatched their whole entire Washington game today, and he is a single read, 3-step drop, get the ball out of my hand on 30 underneath routes, and then once no safeties are deep, throw one long deep shot and let your first-round wide receiver that's 6'4" win. And I think his average depth of target is check down Charlie. His average time to get the ball out is check down Charlie. He didn't go through reads really at all, and that just is a huge cause for concern. And I think people see the stats and they see, oh my God, look for all these yards, look at all these touchdowns, look at this completion
Dylan
percentage, but
Gabriel's
you
gonna
didn't
do the same
actually,
thing next year, anyways. It's just a good.
yeah,
It's a good system.
yeah, and you guys just don't watch these guys play quarterbacks, which hearing people, on Twitter, on some of these podcasts, people who talk, if you don't watch college football, do not commentate on where you think people are going to go in the draft unless you watched film.
Yeah.
Because you guys don't know who are good players. You guys look at a box score and then say that's what they're going to be in the NFL, which is just undeniably not true. So I just think he's a little overrated. I think he's a second round quarterback that you can throw rocks on, let him compete with maybe a veteran on your team because he's already old, so he's going to need to start right away. Yeah, I think he's 23.
Oh, okay.
So he's not super old because he started as a true freshman, but he's been in school for a while. And so I don't dislike him. I just think that people see the stats and, start cradling balls is all. So
I think you're right, KB. He's overrated. I will say he is athletic. He can make decent throws, but he did do a lot of probably quick throws at Oregon in that concepts because they have so many athletes and they let them run with the ball and they make deep shots where you just kind of throw it up to your really good receivers. So I like that take, KB. Kind of curious to see what he does in the NFL if he can compete and maybe push a starting guy and maybe they have a couple series for him where they do some running concepts or something because he's pretty athletic and a decent sized quarterback. But I would agree that he is overrated. My next one's gonna surprise people. Think too, KB. This might surprise you. Keon Coleman, great.
overrated?
Overrated. Um, I think his production could have been more, both at State and Florida State. I don't think he's bad, and if there's anything, he's slightly overrated. I just thought he could do a little bit more, both at State and Florida State. I know at Florida State he had a lot of guys around him. I would have liked to see what he would have done at State. I know we were bad and it was a shitty situation. He would have been wide receiver one. Would love to see him have just like a breakout year, like we've had receivers before, KB, that are big names that did really good. Plaxico Burress, Charles Rogers, etc. I don't think he's bad. I think he's got the size to be a good NFL receiver. I just think his production in college could have been a little bit higher. So in that sense, he's slightly overrated in my opinion.
No, I think that's completely and 100% fair. And we're not saying like overrated, like we think he's like I think we have a good grasp on a lot of these players. I'm saying like in the media, right? I think we think some of these guys are a little bit overprojected, or especially like on Twitter, on NFL, where they aren't watching as much. I agree. At times, I think Jordan Travis kind of limited what Keon Coleman did. In the route tree they had him run was worse than what they had him run at Michigan State, which was like 80% fades at Michigan State, which is wild that they ran worse routes at FSU. But they had a number one, and his name was Johnny Wilson, and he's 6'7", and they're kind of similar players, where if he would have went to a school that already had an elite slot receiver and didn't have someone that could really win outside, that probably would have been a better fit for his yards and stuff, but I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
The percentage of contested catches is a cause for concern because that usually goes down, but I think he's going to work out well. But I agree, a little bit overrated as things go. Moving on to mine, overrated. This one was kind of difficult because I don't think overall, I think most people do a good job. But when I was looking at the receivers, I just there's a receiver that sticks out to me, two guys. I really think, and this isn't the overrated guy, I really think Xavier Worthy is going to have problems translating to an NFL with how many drops he has because that pisses coaches off and it pisses quarterbacks off.
Catch the ball.
He needs to catch like 2,000 balls every single day until the draft. But I'm going to talk about his teammate, Adonai Mitchell.
I saw him on a list too.
People are mocking him in the first round, and he wasn't the best receiver when he was at Georgia. Lad McConkey was their go-to receiver.
People love Lad. I almost put him as overrated just because people are loving on him.
People are adoring over him a little bit too much. But
yeah.
I do think he won at Texas, but he was put in so many advantageous positions because you have to double Worthy so much, because you have to put a tight end, and you have to pay so much attention to Sanders. And I don't think he's as good as he's given credit for. I think he's a fine receiver. I think in the second round would be a perfect time. But people are mocking him top 25 picks, and I just don't see the production to put him there. I know we love risers and we love storylines, and it's so cool to see him transfer and then perform really well. But that just gives me red flags. If you leave a two-time national champion, that just doesn't sit well with me. I
Yeah.
know you probably didn't get the ball as much as you wanted, but that still doesn't sit well. And I don't like how that's not the player that you want to be, going to a national championship twice and winning it both times and then not running it back is kind of a weird vibe for me.
I respect that. I don't get much to say about it. I think everything you said is true. Transferring out, and he was in a good spot because of all the talent they had on offense. So, well, it should be interesting to see what happens to him. But my third overrated player, KB, this one kind of hurts me. I love running backs from the school. Jonathan Taylor has been really good in the NFL, but I'm going to say Braylon Allen, overrated. I don't think the running back class is super strong this year, but I don't know if his game transfers that well to the NFL. As much as I love big running backs that can hit a burst here and there, I just don't know if that game transfers to the NFL well. But maybe I'm completely wrong, and he gets in a situation like Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if he's Jonathan Taylor-esque as if he's that fast, but um, I don't know if he. I don't know. I feel like this year Wisconsin was really weird. They had a new system, new coach, and didn't seem like he did too much. Even when Malusi got hurt, I think he's a good, solid college running back, but I don't know if his game will transition to the NFL that well or not. I guess we'll see. But I think he's slightly overrated right now.
No, that's a completely fair point. He's going to have to be in a specific system that really wants him to get downhill and downhill fast. I do think he has some top end speed capabilities. And I just think that it wasn't a good marriage in that backfield and kind of what was put out in front of him.
Yeah.
And I think this is a guy that you can definitely, like, if people are saying, hey, early, second round, I don't think should really go there. He doesn't do enough overall where he isn't giving you a lot in the passing game. He isn't a great blitz to picker upper. That's a bad thing. He doesn't pick up blitz as well. And
If
I
he's like
just think
third or fourth
overall
round,
they're
that's probably perfect for him.
yeah,
But if he's
third,
second,
fourth round, and if you have a smaller back, like maybe the Chargers look at him, where like, hey, we need a short down back.
hmm
You know, our thing with Eckler here is, he's kind of gone out of his knees and he isn't the runner he once was. Let's get a bigger back in here to carry the load. So that could be something. But yeah, I agree. He has become a little bit overrated. Um, my guy, and this one hurts a little bit. Michigan guy, Kalen King. Uh, he's a
position,
junior cornerback,
corner.
Penn
Okay.
State. Yeah,
Oh
Kalen
yeah.
King.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about him.
Detroit kid, yeah. And I think that kind of got exposed at the Senior Bowl, but I still
Yep.
see people mocking him and talking about him as an late first rounder, early second. And I think he was put in a much better position when he had a number one safety, Joey Porter Jr., lined up on the other side of him.
Yeah.
And that made him look significantly better
Yep.
because this year he was not a number one for Penn State. People ran past him, around him, through him, just let him know, hey, you're standing still, brother. And he's still elected. Whenever I see someone have a struggling junior year and still go to the draft riding on all of the hype entering this junior year, that gives me red flags and gives me overhyped, not mentally focused, not ready to put in the work to grind to earn back all of that hype that you got. And that is a cause of concern. Now, granted, he did lose his defensive coordinator, so maybe that played a large influence to it.
Good.
But I don't know when he, committed. I don't know if he committed before Diaz was gone. But I kind of want to double team this one with another cornerback. Terrion Arnold is getting a lot of hype, and I get it.
Where's he from?
Alabama. He's the cornerback opposite Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
But when you always get the number two,
You look better.
because
Like
everyone's
King.
trying to throw away from Kool-Aid McKissentree
Yep.
because he's been starting as a true freshman. That gives me cause for concern. Not saying that he's not a good player, but I see people have him going as a number one cornerback in the draft. And that's just wild to me. I think he does have a great, tremendous upside, but I just think when you can do it when there's already someone established on the other side, it makes you look a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. Not much more to say, KB. I would agree with what you said. The Senior Bowl hurt King big time for sure. And having a number one guy, shutting down a guy all day, making the quarterback throw to your side of the field where, it might be more contested balls, you're going to look better. So I totally get that. And I can see people don't watch a lot of the games and they just see the stat line. They get, they push those guys right up. But let's go to our underrated guys. Um, I'll let you lead this one. I kind of want to start off, but I'll give you the go ahead here for your first underrated guy.
I mean, I think just the running backs in this class. I think this might be one of the most, slept on running back class. I think Jonathan Brooks, if he returns to his pre-ACL injury, which I mean, obviously
He
is
was
going to
so
knock
good.
his. He was so explosive. He was so fast. He made so many people miss, and people aren't even really talking about him. Trey Benson is really, really good. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Bucky Irvin, Audric Estime, Ray Davis, Dylan Johnson, Marshawn Lloyd, all of these guys have huge value. Will Shipley is a really good kind of scat back.
White boy.
And I just think that a lot of these guys aren't getting looked at, aren't getting appreciated because they are running backs. I know the value isn't super high. I'm not saying, why aren't these guys in the first round? I mean, first round running backs are a thing. Do I think there's one in this class? Probably not.
Is there
But I
Jameer
just don't.
Gibbs? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a Jameer Gibbs, but I don't think that people are appreciating it as much as maybe you should because running backs are so useful. I know no one's like, oh, well, they're so replaceable. Yeah, because each team in college has two that are probably going to get drafted if they're a good team. And there's only 32 teams in the NFL, and each of them carry 3 or 4 guys, depending on if they have a fullback. But I just don't think that these guys are kind of aware of the versatility and viability that these guys will have and how they'll impact offenses. Like the Vikings are a good example of a guy that they need a second or third round running back that will go in and start and be impactful for them. There's
Absolutely agree.
there's places like that all around the NFL right now. I think we're a little privileged as Lions fans where we don't have to worry about that.
Great
But
one-two
I mean,
punch.
there's a lot of guys that I feel like that, and so I just wanted to shout them out as a whole collective because
Hmm.
they're not talked about. They're
I
not,
like
they're
that.
not mentioned because most drafts talk about the first 32 picks. Running backs aren't going that high, so no one's talking about running backs, and we need to shout them out on how impactful they're going to be, and going into this year.
I like that KB. I was actually gonna write down estimate. I saw him some lists, and I just like his game for Notre Dame. I think he could be solid second, third round running back. So looking forward to that. But I like that KB. Even though I put running back overrated, I would agree that you're not hearing a lot about the running backs right now in general. But my first underrated guy is close and near to you. He did really good in the Senior Bowl. Roman Wilson. Not a big guy, but it sounds like the Senior Bowl, he was running good routes. He was catching the ball, and he actually was running routes like you said last podcast. So I think he's been doing a great job. I think in that Michigan scheme, kind of like JJ, they ran the ball a lot. They win a certain way, and I think if he gets in the right system, he could be a really good slot guy. Really show his hands off, and how good of routes he can run, and he's pretty quick. So. I think he's underrated. I think he could be a steal in the early rounds. So looking forward to see where he goes. I think he'd be a good spot. He could be a good spot for a lot of teams as a third receiver.
No, I like that. Obviously, I'm Roman Wilson, absolute speedster. He can literally, I mean, he might have been a guy that was looking at fourth round going into the pre-draft stuff, and depending on what he runs, some say he might run in the 4.3s or like low 4.4s. And if he can do that, he might bump up to close to early
Four four one.
early
Mark
second
it
round.
down. 441. Mark
Four
it
four
down.
one.
Mark
I'll
it
mark
down.
it down.
I'll
I
write it down
am.
too. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he runs a 439.
But there's a lot of hype surrounding him already from the Senior Bowl, and I think he can ride that to being in the second round. And guys are going to learn about him.
Yeah.
I think he has good hands. I think he's consistent. He's one of those slot guys that has speed to play on the outside as well. But excited to see kind of his tape and see where he goes in the NFL. I like that, evaluation. For me, I'm going to follow up, doubling up on Michigan guys here, and I'm going to talk about Junior Colson. He's Michigan's linebacker. He's a 3-year starter. Started as a true freshman in the Big Ten. Really impressive. He played this year basically with 2 broken hands. He had casts on both hands and still dominated
At
and
the same
still made
time?
plays. Yes.
Holy shit.
He had he had
Football guy.
he had a full cast on his right hand, and then he had these 3 fingers all casted together
Football guy.
on this hand, so he looked like a crab. He's like, I got the smasher and I got the grabber.
Football guy. Holy shit.
Yeah, but he was awesome. I think he has some struggles in coverage because he's a big linebacker. He's like 6'4", 250 plus. So, but he does have speed, and I think he's going to be one of those guys where if their linebacking room is a little light, and they need someone that will stop the run, that will meet guys in the hole, will finish stuff, will flow to the ball well. He's one of their guys Because as the year went by, and one of the things that's great about Michigan's defense is it's a pro defense. A lot of the calls, a lot of the checks, a lot of the stuff that he was implementing in games, he was involved in a pro defense. So hopefully the transition time is less. But absolutely love Junior Colson, everything that he's done for Michigan.
Yeah, I don't got much to say, KB. He's a football guy. I'll say it again. If you're paying it, I probably said it like 20 times already, but take a shot every time I say it. But yeah, I like what you're saying. Sounds like he's a solid linebacker, and I'm going to segue to another linebacker. Kind of under the radar guy. He won some award for, I don't know if his best defensive player or best linebacker. Peyton Wilson from NC State. Obviously, you don't hear a lot about these guys. Mediocre, middle of the road, maybe higher echelon ACC. But he was everywhere for NC State, and he won an award. He had like 120, 130 tackles. You don't hear much about him. He's an animal, tackle machine. I think he shows up probably in his pro day or at the combine, and he might be a sleeper pick in the middle rounds, but I think he's a solid linebacker, and you can put him in. Could be like a Rodrigo type for the Lions, where he's a hustler, he's a baller, he gets out there and makes plays. Maybe he's good on special teams, but I think his game, his heart transitions well to the NFL. Love seeing guys like that make it to the NFL.
Absolutely, I like that. I was reading up a lot on him today too, so no surprise there that he's one of your underrated guys. My last guy for underrated, and we're gonna stay in the Big Ten country, Chop Robinson. Uh,
Where's he at?
he's Penn State.
Okay.
I really like what he brought. He battled through some injuries this year, so he didn't get to play in a lot of their games. I think he missed like 4 or 5, including the Michigan game. He wasn't 100% in. But this guy was a former 5-star recruit. Huge athleticism off the charts. He can play the run, and I just think if he gets a chance to go into a system that there's already a pretty not bona fide star, but a guy that's producing pretty well, and you give Chops a lot of one-on-ones. His speed is a problem. His get off, his aggression is a problem, and I think he can make a ton of
Is
plays
he an
at the
edge
next
guy?
level. hmm
Okay.
And I just think he's gonna make a world of difference in the NFL for a team. Like I'd love the Lions to maybe go after him even early in
We
the
need an
first
edge
round.
rusher. Edge rusher and
But I
corner.
Yep, and I just really love how he's kind of built and everything that he can do. He was used a lot in Manny Diaz's defense, and I followed him even when he was at Maryland when he was originally recruited. So
Hmm.
big shout out to Chop.
Not much to say to you, KB. I don't know much about him, but it sounds like you hit the nail on the head. Maybe the Lions get him. I don't think he's a first round guy, but a little bit later on. But I'm gonna stay in the Big Ten as well, KB. He's our white guy. He's athletic as hell. I don't know if he's underrated, but I had to say his name. We all love him, Cooper
Yeah,
DeJean. Great at punt return, could be kick return, solid corner, really athletic. I think I saw some TikTok about how he was super solid at basketball, and he might have played a spring sport too. I don't know if it was baseball or track, but just super athletic, really good corner, and he can make plays in the punt return game too. So I had to bring him out there. You know, I know he single-handedly pretty much won the Minnesota game, even though it might have not have been shouldn't have counted. But I had to bring him up. Would love to see him do really good in the NFL. He's just a fun guy to watch. Super athletic guy from Iowa. He's from Iowa too, so you love seeing those white guys, make their way up and do a hell of a job in the NFL. So I just had to bring him up. Looking forward to how he does and in his pro day if he has one, in the combine, and then seeing where he falls in the NFL. Fun guy to watch.
yeah. I mean Cooper DeJean, he's a sneaky athlete.
That's what they always say, right?
Ball knower, really smart, high IQ. He's a coach's kid. He's a great teammate,
Perfect.
great in the locker room. No, I mean,
That's what every media member says about any
yeah,
white.
every media member, whenever we talk about white people that play any position outside of quarterback, is like,
Yo,
God, he's
he's
sneaky athletic.
coach's kid. He
Like,
knows
no, he's
football.
just a good athlete. Like there are sneaky athletic white guys. Don't get me wrong.
Cooper DeJean is
Sometimes
an
where it
athlete.
looks like they're moving weird, right? That's where I use sneaky athlete is like if they don't look like they know how to move, but they still move well. Like maybe Josh Allen because he's so tall and lanky, he kind of runs weird. But yeah, no, he's a high level athlete. It'll be interesting to see how he transitions to the NFL. Iowa cornerbacks have not done great transitioning because they run such a zone heavy scheme. They haven't
True.
played a ton of press. They haven't got up on a lot of faces. It's a lot of open releases where you're opening the hips to the middle of the field.
True.
Funneling everything back in, breaking on stuff, out routes, but He has, top tier athleticism. He reads the field really well. He has punt returner capabilities, like you said. Even in the Big Ten West, it's
Hmm.
impressive. He could be a guy because of, and I'm not saying because he is an athlete enough to cover guys. I'm saying just because of his ball skills and how well he tracks and reads, the ball, he might be a safety. I could
Okay.
see him sticking at cornerback just because he is a high enough level athlete. But the way that this guy tracks down footballs and the way that he kind of runs routes for receivers and gets on top of things so quickly in that extremely zone heavy scheme Iowa runs, that could be a safety.
Could he
Now
be
I
a
hope he
nickel guy,
doesn't
or am I way
because
off when I say that?
what?
You think he'd be like a nickel guy, or am I off? Being like,
Yeah, he definitely could be like a nickel inside guy and then,
okay, yeah,
go up to the top of the safety.
got it.
But I just think overall he's just so good at, intercepting the ball and getting in the way of passing
Ball
lanes.
hawk.
He's a high IQ player. Um, I just think that he could do well, being on the full back end of a defense. But I wouldn't suggest an immediate position change, but that's something I could see, especially later in his years if he recovers well from his knee injury, maybe even sliding back there just as he becomes slower, kind of like what Charles Woodson did, as he transitioned away from cornerback to being a safety. But yeah, I shout out to him. He's one of the guys that I think a lot of the NFL media guys know about, but a lot of the general NFL draft Twitter and commonality guys have no idea because they see a white guy covering people and they're like, "There's no way in hell." Which all fair respect because there's no one in the NFL currently doing it. But
True.
shout out to Cooper DeJean. He's an absolute dog, and hopefully he covers well from his injury and gets picked up in the draft. Probably second round now after his injury. He could have pushed to first round,
Yeah.
depending on how that would have worked.
That's all I got, KB. Anything else you want to hit on before we kind of wrap this up and maybe hint for something next week?
I have nothing else, but I'd love for you to hint for next week what we're planning
Yeah,
on.
KB, I kind of already wrote down my team here, but KB and I we're gonna kind of do an all-time team, not really from the. Or I think we're doing '90s to now. We're gonna kind of go back, pick our roster. We're gonna pick a couple guys per position. I already did. I probably wrote down too many names, but just kind of talk things through. Maybe talk about a game or head-to-head of who would win. I think that would be kind of hard, but we'll talk about all-time players from the '90s to now. I would love to go back a little bit further. State has some legends and some dudes, probably like Michigan does, but we're gonna do that next week. I have a list, KB, going already. I know you probably did a little
Yeah.
research, but I'm looking forward to that conversation. It'll probably be 30 to 40 minutes of us just talking about guys that have been legends for our program.
Yeah, I don't think it's really going to be like necessarily a versus, right? Because how do you even
I know. I wish
quantify that?
throw
Like,
that shit in a algorithm or something.
I think there would be like it'd just be like probably Michigan, probably because they had better field goal kickers. Because I feel like the
We got
defenses
Brett
are been.
Swinson. Come on, he's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean we got Moody, so I'm
True.
riding with Moody. But no, I'm just kidding. 'Cause I think the defenses are going to be absolutely loaded on both
Oh yeah,
sides. I mean,
absolutely.
obviously there's a lot of offensive skill players. But my thought process and why I suggested, I think we end up doing two teams over the offseason. Pre 90s, where there's a lot more running and the game hadn't really evolved. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously you could pass the ball, but it wasn't the dynamic. And then the 90s, you kind of start seeing that transition, and that's the lives we've lived. I
True.
mean, I was 3 during the 90s, but you grew up in the 90s,
I mean,
and that's the
6.
football and the legends we were talked about. And I think we can go like a 90s and before because there's legends on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe we're both running triple option offenses, and we just got 10 good tailbacks running back there.
Yeah.
But I'm
Absolutely right.
excited to talk about this and just kind of talk about some scenarios and maybe some of the interesting ways that this all kind of unfolds
Oh yeah.
um, from the 90s until, now. And then obviously we'll do one pre that. It's just when
I
you go
like it.
back that far, I mean, you have so many people that like was the quarterback and running back in 1912, did they were they five-time All-Americans? Yeah, but they were 135 pounds and 5'9" because they didn't have weight rooms yet. So I don't really want to compare those
Yeah, yeah,
two.
yeah.
It's a little too large of a database, but I'm excited to compare these and talk about these
Same.
pretty specifically. So
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, KB. As always, thank you guys for listening. I know it's been a little bit slower. We haven't been as consistent, but still listen, share, whatever you got to do. X, Twitter, we appreciate it. And as always, go green.
go blue, baby.
Talk to you guys next week. Looking forward to it.